Hello, students. I just wanted to update you real quick. I sent an email out to you earlier today. It's Friday, January 20th. My mother passed away last night, and when I was notified by my father, I was in the process of cutting 6 videos for you. So today, before we get our family and friends over, I wanted to cut the final video. I'll do my best to get that posted for you this weekend. What I don't want any of y'all doing right now, and well, first let me say thank you for the very kind comments and the condolences. I love you all. My mom was big in education, and we appreciate everything. So since she was big in education, I'm going to go ahead and finish this video for y'all. But don't worry about any homework. Once I get settled in next week, uh, we'll reboot. Do what you can do. Hold your questions till Tuesday or Wednesday. Over half of you have had me before. You stick with me. You know that I'm flexible and I work with my students. I love my students, and so we're just going to continue on. But thank you very much. So we were right in the process of I'd cut off the other 5 videos, and our last one here that we had to do was part 2 of installing a virtual machine, VirtualBox. So you should have booted up, and hopefully you see something like this. Now you have 2 different options here. Uh, Very seldom, I don't think I've really ever had any students that had too many problems with this. So what we normally do is we install it. You can try Ubuntu, and what that does is it's a live disk. The installer is a live disk, so it gives you all the functionality, but your ISO does all the work. So it's a little bit slower, and the memory management's a little bit different in the background. You probably won't notice it either way, but I want to go ahead and do a full install. And now keep in mind too that you can download other versions of Linux. All right, so you don't necessarily need to try Ubuntu. I don't care what you do, as long as you do a virtual machine and we can do some bash with it. I've just found that Ubuntu is the easiest, and most of the time the students like doing it. So that's why I'm recommending we use Ubuntu. Let's go ahead and click on install Ubuntu. And again, depending on how much memory you have in the background or allocated to your virtual machine, how much total memory you have on your host machine, the process can be a little bit slow if you don't have a lot of memory. I got 20 gigs, so it goes along zippity doo-dah here. Go ahead and just click through this. You're going to do a normal installation. And the reason I ask you, you know what? I don't care which one you do, either normal or minimal installation. They're both basically the same. If you do a normal installation, it gives you a lot more functionality. I do suggest that you don't download the updates. I have personally, no students have ever complained, but I have personally had a situation where I tried to download updates. It didn't work. So I suggest that the main ISO has already been tested. Let's do our updates later on. Something I'm going to have you do anyways. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to erase disk and install Ubuntu. Make sure that you are in VirtualBox, because if you are actually using your Windows and you have not gone through the other video in part 1 and you have not started to create your VirtualBox, what will happen is you will overwrite your existing disk. So make sure you are locked into VirtualBox. All right, and you can tell that because here's a little container. If I try to move it around, it stays inside my VirtualBox. That's very important. We're just going to do install now. It will ask you if you want to make the changes to disk. You hit continue. It auto sets everything up, format your drive, does all that stuff in the background. You're going to select what area you're in. So we select Eastern time zone, and then you're going to put in your name. So in my case, I'm going to put in Tim Starr. Please put your name in here. That's important. Pick a username, and then you're going to put in your top secret password. And then I normally tell it to log in automatically. It just simplifies the boot process and whatnot. Since it's in VirtualBox, you're going to have physical access to the machine. That's what I suggest you do to keep it simple. And then you look down here, you got a little virtual hard drive that's going. That means we're working with our ISO and our newly created hard drive. So you know what these icons are. Would be your sound bar. This right here is your network activity, and we're hooked up on a NAT adapter. I will explain that when I do the networking module, and the rest of them we don't really need to worry about right now. So we'll let that boot up, and it'll tell us when it's done. It takes, for the average machine, around 15 minutes. On my machine, it's a little bit faster. It'll probably take about 10 minutes. On your machine, if you don't have a lot of RAM, it could take 20 or 25 minutes. So please be patient. It'll let you know if anything goes wrong. And at this point in time, there's very little that can go wrong. So just be patient and wait for it to do its magic. All right, so the installation's done. You should have a screen that's very similar to this right here. And what you can do is you can hit restart now. You might get an error similar to this. Don't worry too much about it. It happens on some computers. Then you will get a screen that will be similar to this one right here, and I will explain the screen real quick. When you're working in a virtual environment, it will handle the removal of the ISO in the software. If you were installing this on a desktop computer and you had used the CD-ROM or the DVD-ROM and burnt the ISO to that, what you would have to do is you would have to take it out of your DVD tray and remove it from the computer, and then it would boot up normally. So now we're going to boot up normally. The first time that your system does boot up after the installation, when you go and you do the reboot, it will take a few minutes for everything to initialize and for the files to finish their placement inside the operating system. So it could take 4 or 5 minutes depending on how much RAM you have. So just be patient. All right, once you reboot your system, hopefully you should have a screen that looks like this. Congratulations. That means that you have successfully completed your first VirtualBox Ubuntu installation. Hopefully you all did well. If you get any issues, you can drop me a line, but I find that most students don't have any problem with this. I do suggest you go through the process a couple times so you're familiar with it. It's a great skill set to carry on in life. Thank you very much. You can check this box here whichever way. I don't like to send the data because sometimes if the system crashes, it does take a little bit of time to send the report. So I just click no if it's on a virtual machine. But if it were my host and it was on a laptop or something like that, I would normally send the data in because I always work with these folks. So it's best to send in your error reports and stuff like that. It just takes a little bit more time when you have a problem. That's installing Ubuntu. Have a great day.